How do you compare the French concept of laïcité with Indian secularism?
I think Mahatma Gandhi had a great association with Maharashtra. Can you briefly explain what kind of association?
In India, only 3 out of 84 grandmasters that we have had in India in chess, which requires no physical strength, are women.
Space mission worth millions of dollars is justified in the light of people going hungry and people not getting this opportunity which you are so passionate to give them.
Please come. Take a seat.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sirs.
Please take a seat. So, Vasundra.
Yes, sir.
Vasundra is from Southwest Delhi.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Vasant Kunj.
Yes.
That's my neighborhood.
Yes, I just got to know.
Okay. All right. And your optional was literature of English language.
Yes, sir.
And so, your father is presently in Uttar Pradesh,
Yes,
Bareilly.
sir. Yes, sir.
Still in service?
No, he's been unemployed since a
Okay.
really long time.
Okay. And you studied from, combined defense service you have given.
Yes,
Very
sir.
nice. And BA honors, LSR. And you have participated in Josh Talks as speaker, public speaking, junior JRF you've got?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wonderful. Qualified in NET also, sports captain school, direct representative for visually challenged peers with NGO, weight training, rescue relief, researching pivotal epiphanic moments in lives of great personalities,
Yes, sir.
spreading English literacy via your YouTube channel. Lot of things and lot of questions can be framed.
Yes, sir.
So shall we start with your hobbies or shall we start with Shakespeare?
Anything you like.
Okay. So can you remember and recite some of the famous quotations from any of the works of Shakespeare?
Sure, sir. So the favorite one would be from Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be,
Okay.
and the existential question.
Okay.
Another one is from Tempest. It was also in our syllabus, and it talks
Anything
about
from Macbeth?
what is done cannot be undone.
And what about the dialogues, the conversation of the three witches?
I cannot recall, although
Okay.
that's one of the favorite scenes.
Fair is foul and foul is fair.
Yes, yes.
Okay. No problem. So let's have Hamlet, Prince of Denmark first.
Okay.
Okay.
That is the only one that I can recall. To be or not to be.
Okay.
That is the question.
How does it go?
To be or not to be, that is the question. I
And
can't recall. Further, I can't recall.
So to be or not to be, that's the question.
Hmm.
Whether it's nobler to suffer in minds the slings and arrows of outrageous misfortunes,
Wow.
or to take up arms against a sea of troubles and end them by opposing them.
Hmm.
That's the quote. Good. So in English Shakespearean literature, there are examples of anachronism.
Hmm.
Can you explain what is anachronism and in which work you find it?
So I can't recall right
Okay.
now.
So may I give you a hint?
Yes.
Use of clock
Hmm.
in a particular work,
Hmm.
and it pertains to a period when no clocks were invented.
Use of clock.
Never mind, you can read upon that.
Definitely.
What is malapropism?
No idea.
No problem, you can read on that.
Hmm.
Have you studied or read Wasteland by T.S. Eliot?
I have.
What is the general theme and what is the inspiration?
The general theme is the World War I era and the absolute dehumanization on the landscape, both the internal and the external, that he was witnessing as part of the modernism movement. That is being exhibited in that entire very long piece of work.
Okay.
And certain critics, including myself as a reader, it's very difficult to make sense of the work because it is supposed to hint at you cannot make sense of the times that he was a part of Eliot. Other than that, you have a very pivotal and very gripping symbolism or imagery being used, wherein you see death and decay all across it. And he's talking about, again, the internal and the external wasteland that he sees that has been bombed out of proportion almost.
What is pantheism?
Pantheism is an age-old belief in God or religion in a way which you find in nature itself. So you worship nature.
So do you find that in Wordsworth?
Yes, definitely.
Can you recall any poetry?
Definitely. Tintern Abbey is one. Intimations of Immortality Ode is one. And he famously called nature his mother, his guardian, his nurse. So the maternal instinct of both giving life and sustaining life is something that he finds in...
You must have read Solitary Reaper also.
I have, yes, sir.
Okay. Very well. Excellent. Some questions now. Literature, I think,
Yes, sir.
has been given its due. What was the subject of your essay?
First one was Not All Who Wander Are Lost.
Okay.
And the second one was on the education. I think it goes, education is what remains after you leave school or as the school has ended.
That sounds very interesting. Just give us the general drift of your argument.
The general drift of my argument was that I started with the story of Vasundhara Devi. I had read about her during my bachelor's, and she was someone who was self-taught. It was not acceptable in her household or in her times in India for a woman to be educated. And she self-taught herself. And there was a point in her life wherein her husband had to appear in court for some theft, which he didn't commit. And she then writes a very beautiful crafted letter to the magistrate, putting forth the points very logically, due to which her husband was then released. And then the husband comes back and he says, when did you learn to write and when did you learn to put all of this in such a brilliant format? Tell me, who did you go to?
Okay.
And he had that little seed of doubt. And therein she then explains that I read about all of it and I did it for you. And I did it all my own. And then both of them realize that she could have not helped her husband, who was also at a lot of points domestically abusive towards her. But she did that. So I then started with that point in words that education is much more than literacy alone. It teaches you important values. It goes beyond and teaches you, in fact, even to be humane.
Okay.
Then, again, education versus literacy. I brought in various examples. What does literacy or the school setup teaches versus what is education? Something which the school also focuses
So
on.
can I remind you of Pink Floyd's iconic song, "We don't need no education. We don't need no class control. Leave the teacher. Hey teacher, leave the kids alone."
Mm-hmm.
So it's a song, but it's very significant and very epochal. Do you get the meaning? I mean, broadly speaking, is it a comment on?
I think it would have been a comment on a very rigid form of educational system which would hamper freedom of the students. It would not have been absolutely against
Breaking
education.
the wall.
Yeah, breaking the wall.
Very well. Okay, let's turn our attention to some constitutional issues and
Yes.
polity part of your syllabus. How do you compare the French concept of laïcité with Indian secularism?
Sir, in my understanding, isn't this laissez-faire in terms of economy, a free market?
No.
In terms of polity?
Yeah. Secularism, laïcité, it is called.
In my...
Call it French secularism.
So French secularism believes in an absolute distinction between the state and religion. So it will not be involved in any form of religion. Religion exists in its own sphere and the polity aspect exists here.
Excellent.
For example, women in France are still not allowed to hold the position of priests. And that's a reform that the state in a way refuses because of the secularism which they follow. Versus in India, it's a principled distance. So they would initiate reform in the religion, but they would be at an equidistant position from all religions and not
No state
sponsor-
religion.
No state religion at all.
Very well. Excellent. Do you feel India is a procedural democracy and not a substantive one?
Procedural democracy. It could be a mix of both, depending upon how we would again interpret these two terms. Procedural, to me, one interpretation would be that it learns as it goes about through various procedures, perhaps.
Well, you are somewhere there.
Close to
So
it.
procedural is simply means that only adhering to procedures rather than the substantive matters.
Then I would take a very clear stand and say
Very
that
well.
no, it's a substantive democracy, and it is not just in letter but in spirit as well.
Okay, and you give me 3 or 4 points in support of your justification.
For example, the universal adult franchise. We were the nation who supported that before the constitution gave us that. We put it in the constitution, which was not so even in the Western nations at that point. And women were fighting very
Pitched battle.
yeah, for just this right to vote. But we always had it in our minds as a true nation following democracy that universal adult franchise was for all of them. Another example of substantive democracy would be our very healthy debate scenario. For every change that our society needs to bring in, we have a very healthy system of discussion and debate which goes on, wherein all stakeholders pitch in.
Okay.
A form that democracy also deals with the principle of equity and rule of law. That has also been upheld, one through the reservation policy, which gives this enabling environment for people who come from depressed sections. But then there's also this an equal principle there that you treat the likes in a similar manner and the dislikes in a different manner.
Okay.
So that also goes with the spirit of the democracy.
Very well. Excellent. Thank you.
So, did you study whenever you were in Kanpur?
Ma'am, I've never stayed in Kanpur.
You have not stayed
Never.
there. Only your father belongs
He's
to that
from
place.
there, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So UP is planning for a 1 trillion economy. What do you feel? How are they planning to achieve it? Will it be possible to achieve it?
I think it will be possible to achieve it, given that it has the highest population in the country. It has the most people in as a state, and they're focusing specifically on all fields. So it's part of the agrarian belt. So the reforms are there tackling that part of the section of the citizens. Secondly, the manufacturing sector is coming about abundantly. Thirdly, they're also focusing on skilling and job creation as well, immediately. So when you have these 3 engines or sectors of the economy, and you have the state and the private sector together being fueled to work towards these, you would have and does achieve this goal as well. So I think on the policy format, it's on its way to do that, and it's committed to achieve that as well.
Okay. What do you understand by demographic dividend?
Demographic dividend is the bracket of a population of a country which comes under the ability to work. So I think, if I'm not wrong, in India it's calculated from 15 years of age or 17 years of age. I'll have to brush up this fact, to 64 years of age, and we have the largest demographic dividend as of now.
Okay. Can you distinguish between circular economy and sustainable development?
I think both of them feed each other, because the moment you have circular economy, or the entire raw material then going to the finished product, again, in a way, in this cycle comes back to the raw material only, which leads to sustainable development. And this is what our government is aiming for in all aspects of our production, to make it a green economy.
I think Mahatma Gandhi had a great association with Maharashtra. Can you briefly explain what kind of association?
With Maharashtra, Immediately, the example that would come to my mind is Tukaram, the Bhakti saint there, had translated the Bhagavad Gita. And for Gandhiji, Bhagavad Gita was a very pivotal text. In fact, he had created a commentary called the Anasakti Yog on it. So perhaps through that, and of course, we had M.G. Ranade working for the caste movement there. So perhaps that association could also have been there. Although I'm creating these points out of everything that I've read, I've as such not read anything specifically.
What about association with Vardha?
Vardhakam? Yes. The Vardhakam, yes.
And Gokhale?
Yes. And Gwalior Tang, the Quit India movement as well. It was there.
Aga Khan Hall?
Mama, I can't recall.
Kasturba Gandhi passed away there.
Okay.
Okay. What is your favorite topic or your favorite subject so, which you like to study most?
As a discipline?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm currently doing my PhD in English, so I study everything related to my topic only.
Acha. What's your topic?
Bhagavad Gita and the Indian freedom struggle, Sri Aurobindo.
So Bhagavad Gita you are reading these days or you have already read it?
No. I'm going with how Sri Aurobindo's commentary goes on that. And for that, I need to read a lot first to access this knowledge. I have to read a lot first on the various concepts that are within the Bhagavad Gita. For example, these are all Vedantic concepts. And as such, we do not have any training. So we need to learn first on our own, see in the different translations, because also we don't know Sanskrit. So first understand what all of these terms such as karma, bhakti, gyan, tamas, moksha, what did they mean when they were written? And then come closer to perhaps the possible meaning that Sri Aurobindo was talking about. So I'm in the process of reading the Gita. But other than that, before that, I need to read a lot first about the background and the various commentaries, which are many.
Are you able to correlate the teachings or the main findings of Gita in the present day?
I am. And specifically because I'm preparing for this exam, the government's focus on the karma yogi aspect of it and nishkam karma. And that civil servants in a way need to also be, or to achieve the state of sthit prajna. That is in a way equidistant to both sorrow and joy. So in that way I can relate a lot. That what that vision is, how can we reach that vision, what is karma that we are supposed to do as future civil servants. I find a lot of parallels.
Okay. What responsibilities have you held as a cultural coordinator?
As a cultural coordinator, ma'am, I believe it was the SPIC-MACAY Cultural Society, and I was the publicity team head there. So as part of this responsibility and role in my college, I had a team whose head I was, and I had, I think, 15 members below me, working with me in fact, and we had to spread awareness within the students of our college about the various cultural initiatives which SPIC-MACAY was organizing, so that we could all attend and get more awareness about what our culture was. Because one of the very disheartening things I witnessed was that we had brilliant people coming in to perform, but the halls were almost empty, which was something which should not have been there. But I also found the reason that students were often not aware because of so many events happening. So as a publicity team, we made it very interesting for them to develop that interest and then come and attend.
Any strong quality that you would like to tell about yourself?
Strong quality about myself would be that I'm very curious. And any new thing that I begin, I'm very curious about it and I take it to the logical extent possible. And I have this in my mind that I know I'll never perhaps reach perfection, because in a way perfection is a mirage. But as close as possible I can reach, I try that. Okay. And I'm able to sustain that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's start with Josh. Sorry, you're speaker.
Yes, sir.
You've got 5 sets of disgruntled senior citizens here. who seem to have lost the zest for life.
That doesn't seem
You
that
got
way,
to
though.
you got to energize them. All right.
Okay.
You got 30 seconds.
Energize them.
Energize them to live life more and not to give up. That we are towards the last stage of living.
Well, what is it? I'd like to ask you a question then. What is it that still...
No, unfortunately, I am on the side of the table.
Okay, then I would...
Yeah, you want to clarify something on what you got to speak about? Please go ahead.
Yes, I would want a cue from you that I would build upon then.
All right, we have no interest in life. We don't take interest at home. We seem that life is over because we have medical problems. Children are abroad or here, they don't really so much care. So we are on our own. So life isn't so great as it should be. That is the general situation we are in. So there is general sense of kind of a depression setting in.
But I would, on the other side of the coin, from where I'm sitting and I'm witnessing life, I would disagree because that is a stage that I want to reach. Because the respect that that age and that experience holds is something that we cannot have. And we need to work towards that. So I am in fact slightly jealous of the great position and power that you hold when I look at you. And
I think maybe I could not explain to you what I wanted. I said this is a set of 5 people who have lost interest in life.
Okay.
And as a Josh talker, you got to, motivate
to
us
reinvigorate the interest.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, life is very interesting. And if at this stage of the life wherein you feel that you don't have the love that you would want, or you don't have a lot of things that now catch your interest because you've reached such, you've seen almost all of your life, I would say that this is where that we're all wrong. The vision that you have and the perspective that you have, if you utilize it to see the world around you, you will realize that that is something which only a few of you only possess.
You've seen that film, Munna Bhai?
No.
And you've not seen Munna Bhai? You must see it.
Okay.
And there's in fact, I think that's the best film I have seen. Right?
Okay.
And that's the only film I think Sanjay Dutt has acted well. Where one of the dialogue when a chap is dying of cancer or whatever, that girl that they bring to dance, because he's not seen anybody half-clad dancing. She tells him, "Ye mat dekho zindagi mein kitne pal hai. Ye dekho har pal mein kitni zindagi hai." All right. So when you are talking of Josh, you got what do you strike at? Do you strike at the mind or do you strike at the heart, emotions?
The heart. And
the heart, yes. So you got to touch there. All right. Every year, various dictionaries come up with certain words of the year. Can you tell me 1 or 2 such words that have come for 2023?
I'll just take a minute because I do remember reading about it. Yes, one word I can recall is yar. So we say it very informally, but that has been taken, I believe, by the Oxford or Cambridge Dictionary, and they've incorporated it as a real word.
And there's one word which is in relation to artificial intelligence and the turbulence that's creating in our lives. Some dictionary has actually selected a word as the word of 2023. Have you heard of this word called hallucinate?
Hallucinate. Not in this context.
Okay. That's the word of 2023 from one of these dictionaries. Because in the sense that you expect when technology comes, you have a lot of euphoria of how it's going to change life. And eventually what it comes, you see is not what it is. So you're hallucinating. All right, if I make the statement that women are not as smart as men, I would like you to comment.
That is absolutely false. If the statement were that women are not equal to men in terms of physical strength, I would have agreed. But in terms of the cognitive strength, they're equals and they should be thus given the equal opportunity as well.
Okay, let me tell you some statistics. Only 6.7% of Nobel Peace Prize winners, Nobel Prize winners are women. And we are not talking of physical strength, we are talking of where they have no disadvantage. Only 5% of CEOs in India and 4% of CFOs are women. In India, only 3 out of 84 grandmasters that we have had in India in chess, which requires no physical strength, are women. Out of the top 100 chess players today, there is not one. Out of 2,000 grandmasters in the world, there have been 25 women. So these are non-physical. So what do you say to that now?
Well, we have the president as a woman now.
Of course.
And so the one commonality I found across the board in all of these statistics were that they had not been given the structural help to reach that space. It is not that they're not smart. It is they can't access these opportunities.
Okay, tell me, everybody has been talking that women should be given menstrual leave. You agree with this?
I would take a different stand because seeing it personally, and because this is a phenomena that almost all of us go through, menstrual leave depends and is given based on the amount of pain that a woman undergoes, and it is not uniform for all women. So I have friends, and including myself, who have very painful periods. But then again, I have women, and I've known women, and I have known friends who have an easy sort of a period cycle in terms of the pain.
Yeah.
So they can function. So we need to have a distinction there.
Okay, so you think that because you said the women are not doing as well as the men because of what you said, certain other factors, not equal opportunity, will it create a discrimination against women that corporate will say, okay, if I have to give leave to say half of my women employees in a month, 4 days, 3 days, whatever, then why should I take them?
No, because again, based on company to company, first off, that is a requirement, and that's a physical requirement because of the great role that females underplay. We give birth. So we need to be given this due respect as well, that this is something which is not in our control. It is not that we can put off a switch and say we don't want periods and that's it.
Rani Lakshmi Bai had no menstrual leave.
Who?
Rani Lakshmi Bai.
Again, based on the company to company, they could come to this.
So you feel that it won't create a discrimination because people will say that I might as well have a male employee who will be available to me for 30 days a month.
But that will be an absolutely unethical and inhumane decision to make.
Okay, you appeared in CDS.
Yes, sir.
Right? And everybody's talking that women should be there in combat arms. Right? What is your view?
I think they should be. But they should be trained adequately for that position, and they should be trained mentally as well, because one of the dominant reasons that are given against it is that sexual assault is possible, which is not to say that that is not the threat with the male soldiers, because it is looked at, rape in fact is looked at as a method to demean the other party. So of course, male soldiers also undergo it, have been undergoing it across civilizations. But if we train our women, we should train them on this mental level as well, that if you're stepping into a role, this is what it might entail.
Okay, let's take an example that there's a woman who's got a 6-month-old child. You remember there was a case where there was a lady JAG officer, law officer in the army, who was detailed on a court-martial duty to go to another city, which is a proper city. She refused to go because she says, I've got a 6-month-old child and there is no creche there. These kind of things, a man will never be required to do. Right? So, then second, of course, is once the family comes along, then for a mother, the highest priority is her child. There's only one Panna Devi in Indian history who sacrificed her son for Maharana Pratap or Uday Singh or so, whosoever it was. So, it's quite easy to discuss, but you'd also know that no army in the world actually puts its women in combat, despite what they might say.
The Israeli army
never in actual combat. They're in support role somewhere, aspas, idhar udhar, neither the American army.
Okay.
So, if I say that army is not a place for employment agency, it's not a place for testing gender equality, because army is not Delhi, army is not Bombay. Army is Galwan, where the first man who died was the commanding officer, right? So, okay, now finally my last question is, you're related to dogs, sterilization.
Yes, sir.
And dogs are big menace in India. They've killed children, they've attacked a whole lot of people, and there are dog lovers who keep fighting for dogs. And even a High Court judge has been bitten, and I think some High Court judge made a comment that something has got to be done. What can be done?
Well, it's absolutely right. Something has to be done, and we are on our way to doing that. So, to begin with, I would begin with the Constitution itself. It's our fundamental duty, 51A(g), to be humane to all living creatures. Second of all, the new Animal Birth Control Rules 2023 have come about, and they explicitly state that it is the responsibility of the urban local bodies to take up sterilization so that the population does not exceed so rampantly as it has been. Third of all, the steps that we need to take to curb this menace part of it is that it is also because of poor waste management and the trauma that these dogs or any stray animal for that matter undergoes due to the rapid urbanization that is occurring.
Okay, if I give a suggestion to overcome this problem, all the street dogs should be rounded up and taken to the zoo. And right now you're feeding chicken to these tigers and all these carnivorous animals. Why don't you feed these dogs to those carnivorous animals? What would you say?
Then we would not be humane at all.
But aren't you killing chickens to feed the tiger in the zoo?
I am against that as well.
Somehow if they have to be kept alive, they can't eat vegetable, biryani.
True, but then it's food versus a menace problem that you can very well work with.
Why? What is the difference between killing a dog and feeding a tiger in the zoo and killing a chicken and feeding tiger? You're still killing somebody.
That will not be
That
the
is
right
not solving.
solution.
Chicken are no threat to humanity. Dog is threat to a whole lot of people.
But the chicken is the natural food of...
Who told you that?
The
The chicken is a natural. God never made chicken so that men could eat chicken and started eating chicken. Okay, think about it. And last question is, what are the friction points between Pakistan and Afghanistan?
The friction points between Pakistan and Afghanistan, although Pakistan does support the terrorism problem that Afghanistan has, and it has time and again given the machinery and the structural support to Talibanis. But I would still believe that in terms of when we compare these two nations, Afghanistan still has a better chance at being a democratic state, and that is something which Pakistan might not be comfortable with because its primary goal seems to be...
You see Afghanistan in any near future chance of becoming democratic?
If the entire region works towards it, definitely, because it once was, or was on its way until the Taliban took over.
What is the border problem between Pakistan and Afghanistan?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think there might be a boundary dispute between
What
them.
is that boundary called?
Durand
Line?
Yes.
Yes, that's an issue. They don't accept that. And there is also Pashtun issue. Pashtuns on both sides of the border. So I think you can, read on these international relations.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Right, Vasundhara. My first question is about India and China. How has the landscape changed from pre-COVID, post-COVID between these countries?
Pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's a very peculiar time period because when the COVID pandemic started, we also had the Galwan clash very near to each other. And so, in a way, these two countries have, if you're talking about the physical landscape, we have a lot of contestable boundaries and we're almost at war with China. But in terms of the other landscape, pre and post, is that these two countries, and India specifically, wants to decouple economically, but it's not unable to. And despite the rough scenario between these two countries, the bilateral trade is going up and up.
Is it increasing still?
Yes, it is. Despite India being very vocal about the rules of origin and not going for exports from China, the trade has increased.
Right. All right. You mentioned that you enjoy reading about epiphanic moment of great personalities. But what is an epiphany?
An epiphany is a moment wherein any individual could realize that something within them has shifted, their perspective has shifted, which leads to then them seeing the world differently and perhaps even changing themselves.
So, Ari, is it the epiphanies that make great people, or do great people have more of epiphanies?
It is the epiphanies as one of the reasons what might make them great.
Can you give us a few examples?
Definitely. So we have what I like to think, because we don't have written records of it, but Ashok, Emperor Ashok, before and after the Kaling War, he had this realization, and this very deep realization. After that, he turn to Buddhism and non-violence. Then you have Buddha himself, the 4 sights that he saw, the diseased man, the old man. He realized the issue was desire, and then he created his entire system of thought.
So, what is the difference between an epiphany and a conclusion drawn from a large period spent in speculation or reason or meditation?
The difference would be that an epiphany is immediate and it's very instant. It's as if you look at something and it hits you, the truth behind it hits you. Versus the large periods could perhaps come after you've had this epiphany and now you have this curiosity to find out what it is.
Right. Tell me something about the difference between ambition and passion.
Ambition, passion. I think they're correlated to each other. One feeds the other in the same way. And your ambition must have some form of passion behind it, backing it. And the stronger this passion is, the more ambitious you would be.
So,
in case there's a difference between these two, one might not be able to achieve what one wants.
is it not true that if you're passionate about something, you tend to specialize? Like, for instance, in music, or in your case, in English?
Yes, definitely.
Yes. And it is my impression from reading your profile that you seem to be ambitious entirely, but not entirely passionate about any one thing. Or is my reading incorrect?
I am passionate about having an impact. And that is the underlying sort of strain that runs along all of the achievements and the things that I've done in life.
In impact.
Yes, sir.
How would you like to achieve this impact?
The one primary goal, and I've sit myself and I've thought about it a lot, the one primary goal that I will achieve in this lifetime is to help at least one more Indian state achieve 100% literacy. And the best way forward is through the civil services. But if that is something which is not in my destiny, I will achieve it in some other form, but I will do it.
I see. And what drives you to do this for a state?
Because in my own case, I've seen that education can be that one enabling factor. If you have nothing with you, but you have education with you and quality education, you can achieve anything. And if I can give it to those who do not have access to it, education plus literacy, then they'll be able to achieve anything for their country.
Do you think that there is a difference between intellectualizing stuff and actually doing them?
Yes, if intellectualizing something, a concept perhaps, is not made into a practical reality, then a bridge could occur.
Oh. And what gives you the confidence that you are not merely intellectualizing and you will be able to bring about some tangible change?
Because since my bachelor's, I've been making this constant effort to continuously take time out and give something of myself and my efforts towards this. And for a long period of time, I think the work experience bit might not be there. I was not paid for it. So I had to work for it just for the sake of it, just to learn it so that I could then gain that legitimacy as well. That yes, she's something that if she goes on in the future and does it, she can achieve it.
So then you want this impact. How is this impact to be differentiated from the need for power?
Power is something which is deeply linked to spectacle, the idea of spectacle. Power is linked to you being seen.
Is impact not?
It is impactful, but it is not the same as having impact in the same manner. So you could have all the power and you could be seen and you could thus utilize that power to have some impact. But even if you do not have that power in the traditional sense, you could work in the background and have an impact as well.
Can you give me an example of somebody who has had a lot of impact but no power?
I think Sri Aurobindo, because he had a very brief political history and political work, wherein most of it was spent in jail, in the Alipur jail. And after that, the Britishers were after him that he had to literally leave the work that he wanted to do for the nation.
All right.
But he gave his entire life to creating this vision for India.
Right. And maybe also that impact can be posthumous.
Yes, that also.
Yes. Can you tell me some of the brief highlights of the COP28?
COP28, sure. It talked about first the loss and damages fund, which is coming from the Santiago network, and it is to help the developing countries build structural mechanisms to help fight climate change. And the important concept behind it is, which is slightly problematic as well, is it just talks about transfer of ideas, but no transfer of funds as such. In fact, they only mobilized $780 million, which is a very puny amount when you compare it to the 100 billion per year that was to be given. So again, one is that, which I find to be problematic because it's very easy to tell a developing country to go green, but unless you don't back it up, that can't come.
I was looking for the highlights actually.
Sure, sir. Sorry. Second of all would be a pledge for green energy. They have, I'll brush up on it, but I think they've tripled their goal.
All right.
And India is not a part of it because we have very ambitious national developing.
So given your emphasis on social reforms and your views, very strong views on women empowerment, education particularly, do you think a space mission worth millions of dollars is justified in the light of people going hungry and people not getting this opportunity which you are so passionate to give them? How is that ethically justified at all?
I think the country has to work across all sectors. And our space missions, the amount of money that goes into it, first off, is very less as compared to USA's. Second of all, we are working and we have been working since a huge period towards tackling hunger, towards tackling education problems through our own very dedicated policies and groundwork program. So I think it's not an either or situation. It has to be achieved at all costs.
But you only have a fixed amount of units of resources which can be allocated either here or there. And so?
But they are enough resources that we can pursue both of these goals together.
All right. My last question is, which are some of the qualities which an IPS officer must not have?
Must not have?
Yeah.
They must not have this understanding of the uniform being a symbol of power, that someone looks at them and they should be fearful of the uniform. That is something which comes with the aspect that the Indian administrative services is non-uniformed. So one might not recognize power when they see it. But with the IPS officer, they should be very conscious that the public must always see them as never ever abusing this.
All right. Thank you.
How do you assess yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in this particular mock interview?
7.
7. Well, 7 in some aspects, but then there are some corrections which are required to be, advised. One is, the first thing is greeting etiquette.
Okay.
General. It's a general guideline. So when you enter, you have to greet the chairperson. And if there is a lady member, separately.
Okay.
And you can acknowledge the other gentleman or whatever, if there are other gentlemen members are there. If the lady is in the chair, then you greet the lady and acknowledge others.
Okay.
Okay. No separate greeting required. So this is as far as the greeting etiquette is concerned. Second, there may be a situation that you may reach your chair and the chairperson does not ask you to sit. So wait for that thing. They will ask you to sit. Do not sit on your own.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And then gestures, I think the panel feels that it's your natural style of gesticulating and speaking.
Yes, sir.
So, the advice is not to curb your natural style. However, if you can underplay it a little bit. So, not too much of gestures and not too much of movement of hands. Little bit is fine.
Okay.
That will be desirable because it's a formal interaction. And interview, you are appearing for the appointment in the civil services. So the endeavor should be that you must come across, since you are a English literature student, you would understand the difference between being sanguine and being phlegmatic. What is the difference?
sanguine would be very
No,
dull.
no.
Then I don't understand them.
Sanguine means very boisterous,
Okay, and phlegmatic.
playful, cheerful.
Hmm.
And phlegmatic, phlegm is गले में जैसे बलगम हो गया, slightly understated,
Okay.
subdued, not overplaying your hand. It's better to be phlegmatic than sanguine. Just remember that.
Yes.
Even as a statement, it's a good idea.
Hmm.
So that is expected in a bureaucrat.
Right.
And that is one quality the panel will be looking at carefully. So without curbing your natural style, you can be slightly understated.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That will hold you in good stead.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So UPSC panels are, UPSC board is looking at a candidate who is able to express him or herself rather than impress. So emphasis should be on expression,
Right, sir.
expressing yourself, whatever, in a succinct, precise, accurate manner.
Okay.
For that, it is very essential that you lay more emphasis on listening than on hearing. It's more, you have to be more attentive to what is being asked. Have a quick appreciation, mental appreciation of the crux of the question and break it down into its 2-3 essential parts.
Right, sir.
And then assess that this is the scope of the question and I have to answer it within this scope only. Really like salt in the in a dish. Nothing less, nothing more.
Right, sir.
Only then it is tasty.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have to add maybe water or, you understand?
Something else, yes, sir.
So, just the right amount.
Okay.
Just the right amount will suffice. And there may be a situation where you may get into the argument or the verbal interaction can verge on altercation
Right, sir.
or a very strident kind of discussion. A panelist may stick to his or her guns or keep reiterating and just to draw you out and see how you react.
Yes.
Do you get into an argument or do you make a tactical retreat? Because here the purpose is not to win any argument.
Right, sir.
There are no absolute opinions. There is no absolute truth. There are so many ways of looking at a thing. So if that situation, if you ever feel, when is your interview?
Not announced yet.
Okay. So if you feel that the whole thing is drifting into the direction of a very strident kind of an argument, withdraw.
Right, sir.
A tactical withdrawal will be a better option.
Okay, sir.
You say that if there is a controversial statement made that women are not half as smart as men, there are several ways of responding to that. One was obviously you responded in a certain manner. The other would be to say that this statement is indicative of many things. But I'm not privy, it appears that I'm not privy to many things because it is, it's rather cryptic. I could not figure out the whole import of it, that women are not as half as smart as men. One possibility of, one interpretation is that perhaps they have not got that opportunity to demonstrate their smartness, which is the fact.
Yes.
Now, if the issue is that lack of opportunity has led to the creation of an impression that women are not as half smart, then I think we need to work in the direction of fairer, better opportunities to be afforded to women to disprove this statement
Right, sir.
and leave it at that.
Okay.
How did you like my argument? I'm a man and I'm giving you a very lawyerly kind of a thing.
It was very balanced.
So that is what is expected.
Hmm.
If you start shooting from hip, then it will get more strident. The next question was, what about you? You have appeared in the CDS for and the women in the combat role. Do not commit yourself to anything which you are not sure of.
Okay.
If you do not know that, don't go by WhatsApp that those good-looking women, Israeli soldiers are appearing on social media. There is no certainty. Nobody is sure. I mean, here is the authentic source
Right,
that
sir.
they are not in the combat role. Combat role is where the enemy, you are firing at them and they are firing at you directly. So that combat role, the question was confined to that only. One smart answer to this is that, sir, combat role as I think in terms of First World War of trench warfare, it's a big no-no.
Okay.
However, if the combat role involves the acquisition of an accurate target and firing a missile remotely, then I think that kind of a combat role, there should not be any problem as far as women are concerned.
Yes, sir.
How do you like this?
This is better.
Sift through, analyze how you can, how can you develop your, wear that black gown and develop your argument.
Okay.
Okay? And obviously, the level of the argument should be raised, not the voice. That goes without saying.
Yes, sir.
So that will hold you in a better stead.
Okay.
Okay? You will be asked some tricky questions just to see, to throw you off the balance and see how you respond. So you have to maintain your sang-froid and respond accordingly.
Okay, sir.
Okay? Does it need more disambiguation?
No, sir.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, coming to some very standard and absolutely essential things to do. All the 7 parts of your GS, mains as well as prelims, with static syllabus topics as well as the dynamic part of it, that is current affairs related to all the 7 parts.
Right.
You have to thoroughly revise.
Okay.
Concepts, static, and current affairs, whether it is disqualification of MPs from polity, whether it is Supreme Court observing that the Article 367 cannot be amended by way of a constitutional order of the President. That takes you back to the amendment to the Constitution, the court's observation. These are some of the examples. I want to illustrate by citing these examples. Everything current, everything conceptual.
Okay, sir.
Go thoroughly.
Right, sir.
English literature, be prepared because it's your subject. Some popular questions like the General Sir asked you, which are the new words. Some odd guy maybe with a literature background who can quiz you on things like Shakespearean anachronism. So, in Julius Caesar, Shakespeare uses the word clock when the clock was not invented. So, anachronism is a very, even in otherwise it's in currency, it's rather anachronistic to say such and such thing. That look, all right, you're talking of 5 trillion economy where the majority of the people are, struggling with, are recipient of the free ration. That is anachronistic. So that is anachronism in literature.
Okay.
Malapropism, use of a similar sounding wrong word.
Okay.
Examples being, there are many examples.
I'll look
Have
them
you
up.
seen a film called Godfather? Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese.
Is there Robert De Niro in
Yes.
it? I've
So he
heard. I
says
have to.
organize instead of organize.
Okay.
That is malapropism. Deliberately to draw your attention.
Okay.
These kind of tricky questions from literature may be asked.
Right, sir.
Okay, type of literature, whatever you have studied, whatever you have studied in your syllabus, there may be questions on that.
Okay.
Okay. Anything you would like to ask us?
I just had a doubt about the greeting thing. I didn't greet when I came in.
You didn't greet when you went away. You did not greet the lady.
I didn't begin with
No,
good
you didn't.
afternoon. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sorry.
So no. That is why this rehearsal is there.
Right.
Pay attention to greeting.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
Okay.
And when you can greet when you come here instead of come walking greeting. You reach here, greet, then you will be asked to sit.
Okay.
That is exactly the way
Right,
it would
sir.
be. Greeting etiquette I've already mentioned. So, by and large, not sanguine but phlegmatic. That is the, I would say, bigger. Remains slightly understated.
Okay.
You are confident, which is wonderful, and you will come out with flying colors once you are finally selected and appointed in the service of your choice. But for interview, slight understatement will not be a bad idea.
All right, sir.
Okay, Ravi, would you like to add anything?
I would say that you have a lot to say, surely. It's evident. But in more than one occasion, I noticed you said what you wanted to say. It was not at all the question.
Right, sir.
And also, you mentioned certain things which were not asked, which had actually not only led us to believe that you were not listening to the question. At times, it felt like you were overly opinionated about things which were not entirely in the conversation at all.
Okay.
And that unnecessary negative spin-off we should eliminate, because you have a very strong profile and speaks very highly of your skills, and you carry this also in your personality. It's evident. There's no need to necessarily create obstacles where there don't need to be, So that's all. Like, it's essentially an elaboration on what the chairperson mentioned.
Can you give any example where I did this?
Yeah, I mentioned highlights, the COP28, and you went off to about something about what you found was good and not good, which I did not ask. So that's what I said. Opinionated, it's not a pejorative word. It's just a word which what I mean to say is that you're taking more or less every question in an opinion tangent. It doesn't need to be.
Okay.
Some questions were factual. The ones which were not were clearly put as such. So that's what.
Within the scope only. That is the thing.
Tell what's asked.
Yes.
Whatever is asked, within its scope, you have to.
Okay.
Okay. Without any emotions being involved, you may have a personal opinion on a subject, but here you have to examine that subject, dissect it, and it is more important to express than to impress.
Yes, sir. I'll
Okay.
keep these things in mind.
Yeah, please, sir.
I may have given an impression that the women are not there in combat units. Women are there in combat units, but they are not used in, like he said,
Direct.
Directly.
They are in less exposed areas,
Okay.
because everybody understands the difficulties and challenges. So
Okay.
technically, yes, they are in combat units, but nobody really puts them there. If you ask that how many of them are fighting in Gaza inside,
Yes.
they won't be there, but they would be there behind somewhere helping.
Right.
So, you see, the thing is that this feminist thing may get triggered. I mean, that risk is always there. Now, that has to be restrained,
Right, sir.
because analyze the panel and that situational awareness is necessary. Panelists most of them are retired, old retired bureaucrats who are not exactly, perhaps not so comfortable with, maybe assigning of certain roles to, the way the times are changing, etc., etc. So, orient yourself according to the situation. That is what is the advice of the panel.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
All the best to you. Anything?
Okay.
Will you be wearing this sari only?
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
It's
Alright.
fine. No jewelry, please.
Yes, I had to get this off.
Yeah. For 25 minutes, no jewelry.
Yes, sir.
Because they don't permit.
Okay.
No watches, no jewelry, no religious symbols.
Right, sir.
All the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.